specjalicznie Twoje, na przyjdę Carstwie Twoje.
Hello, my name is Janine Johnston. Welcome to the third section of Unit 3 in our series on the Old Testament. Today we will talk about God's decision to give one particular people group special assistance to learn holiness for themselves and share their wisdom with others. Remember that it helps to look at the vocabulary list and ask the Holy Spirit guidance before you listen to the lecture. Please be sure you have downloaded a copy of the text to read along with me. Point number 2. In the last section we talked about the flood of Noah's day, about covenants and contracts, and about the continuing tendency to rebel against God's directions. A case in point involved the people who settled in Shinar, that is, in Babylon, Babylon. They decided that they didn't want to obey God's instructions to spread out over the earth. Their efforts to stay in one area and build a tower to heaven were ended when God confused their language. After that, they began to do what God told them to do. Point 3. God wanted to have a close relationship with people, and for that they needed to be holy. But people continued to choose sinful ways. God didn't want to wipe out another generation like he did in the flood. What he decided to do displays mercy, M-E-R-C-Y, mercy, rather than justice, J-U-S-T-I-C-E. God is both just and merciful, and it's important to remember that. It's a major teaching throughout the whole Old Testament period. So, what did he do? He decided to select one person, a distant descendant of Noah's son Shem, and act in special ways to develop in him and his family an understanding of what will bring peace and wholeness. Great blessings would be given to this chosen people, but also strong punishment would follow persistent disobedience. God wanted them to see the results of their choices. They would then find it easier to gladly seek holiness, H-O-L-I-N-E-S-S, which opens the possibility of having a close relationship with Him. This chosen nation was to become an example and a help to all other people, O-T-H-E-R-P-E-O-P-L-E, showing them how to live. The great flood shows the justice and righteousness of God because sin requires a just punishment. As is clearly stated in the New Testament, the wages of sin is death. Sin reaps death. The selection of one nation to help all others learn to reject sin and choose to live holy lives shows God's mercy. This principle of helping others learn is very important. Always in the Bible, when one person is chosen for special blessings, it is so that he can then help others, H-E-L-P-O-T-H-E-R-S. It is true for us today as well. When someone becomes a pastor, deacon, doctor, teacher, writer, or any other leader, God gives gifts to him or her so that he or she can then serve, S-E-R-V-E, S-E-R-V-E, so they can then serve others, not so that that person can consider himself higher or better than others. People around the gifted person may show him love and honor, but not worship him. It is wrong to place such people on a pedestal. If you have been given the gift of genuine faith in the Son of God who came to die in our place, You are a chosen person. You are chosen to now live God's way in His kingdom and to serve others. Your job is to help others somehow, to use the gifts you've been given in order to SCRVE, serve others, no matter what kind of work you do. And the most important way to serve others is to help them come to know the Lord, to have a personal relationship with Him and grow in holiness, so that they can enjoy the same blessings you receive from that close relationship. Point 4. It was sometime around 2000 BC that God put His plan in motion, selecting a man named Abram, Abram, to be the father of this special people group. The story of Abram's family starts in Genesis chapter 11 and continues to the end of the Bible. His father was Terah. Terah and his family lived in the city of Ur, U-R, in southern Mesopotamia. Then Terah, Abram, whose name would later be changed to Abraham, his wife Sarai, and his nephew Lot traveled to Haran and settled there. If you have a Bible map, see if you can locate Ur and Haran. It will help to impress these facts on your mind. Genesis chapter 12 tells us that God called Abraham to leave his country, his people, and his father's household to go to an unspecified place, UNSPECIFIED, an unspecified place, which God would show him. God gave him some very great promises. Please read Genesis 12, verses 1 to 7. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. These promises gave hope to Abram and his descendants through many centuries of suffering and uncertainty. Did God say He would fulfill these promises only if Abram's descendants never did anything wrong, if they always behaved perfectly? No. Did Abram's descendants, in fact, become a great nation? Yes. Have all people on earth been blessed through him? Yes. How? Through his descendant, Jesus Christ, capital J-E-S-U-S, capital C-H-R-I-S-T. Through his descendant, Jesus Christ, who came about 2,000 years later. Remember the seed that God promised Eve before she and Adam ever left Eden? God said that Eve's seed or descendant would crush the head of the serpent who tempted her. That serpent was Satan, S-A-T-A-N. The seed of Eve that would crush him came through Abram's family. Her seed is Jesus, the long-awaited Messiah. He crushed Satan through his willing death on the cross of Calvary. By paying the penalty for our sins, Jesus bought us back from Satan's ownership. He gave everyone the possibility, Possibility, the possibility to become free from sin's control and have a close relationship with the living God. Each one can now choose either to follow Jesus and have a special relationship with him, or they can ignore him and live without the blessings of God. Point 5. Abram was 75 when he set out on this journey from Haran. God brought him into the land of Canaan. He remembered God's promises, but after many years without any son being born, Abram felt like it wasn't going to happen. He started to think that his relative or servant Eliezer would be the one to inherit his possessions and the land God promised to give him. Genesis 15 tells us that Abram spoke honestly to the Lord about this and reveals how the Lord responded. Read, please, Genesis 15, verses 1 to 7. Genesis 15, verses 1 to 7. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, O sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son coming from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the heavens and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it. Notice verse 6. Abram became righteous before God because he believed God. You can see this principle of salvation from sin stated clearly also in the New Testament book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verses 8 and 9. Take a minute and read that at Ephesians 2, 8 and 9. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. In the Old Testament, just as in the New Testament, everything depends on faith, F-A-I-T-H, on belief and trust in God that is shown by our actions of obedience, A-C-T-I-O-N-S. Now let's go back to Genesis 15. When God told Abram to count the stars, what was he saying to him? Abram would definitely have many, many descendants. Has that happened? Yes. Point 6. Abram believed God, but he asked for a sign to hold on to concerning the future possession of the land. God used a formal covenant with him as he confirmed his promise to give the land to Abram's descendants. We will discuss that covenant more in the next lecture, but I want to point out now something very interesting that God said after Abram prepared for the covenant to be made. Read Genesis 15, verses 12 to 16. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated 400 years. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your fathers in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. God disclosed to Abram that hard times would come for his people, but that the period of suffering wouldn't last forever, and it would end with blessings. Then what did he say? He said that he's going to extend mercy to the grossly immoral Amorites, to the people dwelling in Canaan in Abram's day. He would patiently give them 400 years in which to choose how they want to live. But at some point, he will deal with sin. Do you see how he revealed both justice and mercy? God is just and will punish sin, but he desires mercy and will sometimes extend it for a very long time. As the Apostle James pointed out, mercy triumphs over judgment. But remember also the warning stated in the same verse that judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who has not been merciful. We will stop here for today. If you want to grow, there are things listed in your notes that you can do. I hope that you are excited to share some of these thoughts with others.
Jesi na nebesích, dał synia Twoje.